Chapter 1. Break down English writing into simple steps for faster progress. Elements of Style has a history. It was initially just 43 pages long, although it contained a goldmine of writing advice, broken down into just a few rules that help anyone not only to understand English writing, but to improve their performance. Elements of Style has become the go-to handbook for wannabe writers the world over. This latest edition has had a slight revamp to bring it up to date with the modern world. The information contained within the book is clear and designed to give confidence to a new writer or someone lacking the courage to write. English grammar is often complicated even to a native speaker. However, the rules can be made easier to understand. English isn't the most straightforward language to write in, and its rules often contradict themselves, making it easy to tie yourself up in knots. By breaking the complicated rules down, writers can ensure that their work is grammatically correct and makes perfect sense to the reader. If you're someone who has always struggled to get the words down right, the good news is that you just need to learn a few golden rules. After that, you can base your work on these rules and make sure that you impress every time you need to. Regular textbooks are often full of confusing rules and examples, but the beauty of this guide is that it cuts out the confusion and sticks to the basics. After all, the basics are all you really need. Did you know? The original Elements of Style was written in 1918 and published in 1920. Chapter 2. The fundamental rules you need to know to master your English writing skills. One of the most challenging parts of grammar is the terminology used. Like everything else in the book, this can be simplified. Possessive singular nouns. These are easy to create. All you need to do is add the apostrophe S. For example, if you wanted to say that Karen has a dog, you would say Karen's dog. In this case, you're taking the noun, dog, and adding possession. Example, it belongs to Karen. A noun is a thing, place, or object. A series of single conjunctions. The second rule relates to a string of different terms that uses a single conjunction. In that case, you would add a comma after each but leave it off the last. So you would say blue, comma, green, comma, yellow, comma, and orange. The full stop denotes the end of the sentence. Use a semicolon whenever it is called for. Sometimes using a full stop simply disturbs the sentence, and a comma doesn't sound right either. If that is the case, you can use a semicolon instead. For example, Catherine Moore is a fantastic cook, semicolon. She has some delicious cakes on sale. Adding a comma wouldn't make sense, and in that case, a semicolon allows the sentence to flow. Know when to use a comma and a full stop. As the name suggests, a full stop is a definite stop. Don't use it in the middle of a sentence that is still flowing. In that case, use a comma instead and allow it to continue. For example, I liked Mary, comma, she seemed full of ideas, is better than I liked Mary, full stop. She seemed full of ideas. Use a colon when introducing a series of items. Rather than having a bulleted list of items, you can keep them in the same sentence by using a colon to introduce the items. For example, I do not agree, full stop. I think you need, colon, pots, comma, pans, comma, knives, comma, and forks. Simple rules allow you to create a grammatically correct sentence and ensure that your work makes perfect sense to the person reading it. Chapter 3. Pay attention to the basic structure of your sentences. It's not all about using the rules. It's about ensuring that the basic structure is in place. See this as the foundation of your sentence. Without having a solid foundation, the sentence isn't likely to make much sense. The best way to do this is to choose how to present your writing. Do you want to write in the first, second, or third person? Do you want to write profoundly or humorously? You need to be consistent at all costs to ensure the reader doesn't become confused and want to give up reading halfway through. Vigorous writing is concise. A sentence should contain no unnecessary words. A paragraph, no unnecessary sentences. For the same reason that a drawing should have no unnecessary lines and a machine no unnecessary parts. E.B. White. Every paragraph should tell the reader what they can expect from the rest of it. The first sentence should act as an introduction to that paragraph. It only needs to be brief, but it should always be informative. For instance, if the paragraph continues the subject before, use a term like furthermore. Link your paragraphs together to create a continuous dialogue. Fragmented sections are hard to read. Always be sure to use the active voice as it is considered to be more direct. When you use the passive voice, it often doesn't present itself to the reader effectively. An example of the active voice could be, Karen changed the bedding. As you can see, it's direct and far more impactful than, the bedding was changed by Karen. It's also essential to ensure you're not evasive in what you're writing. Don't allude to something you're not planning to discuss in more detail. Stick to the direct approach and say what you mean in clear language. You don't need excessive words or needless word count. You simply need to say what you want to say, making your point in line with the design you chose at the start. Excessive words bore the reader and make your writing less clear. Make it direct and concise. Chapter 4. Pay attention to your writing form for professional outcomes. Make sure that you are always consistent with your writing form. If you're writing a novel, make sure you stick to the same format throughout. If you're going to write in a diary form, again, make sure that you stick to the same format to avoid not only confusing the reader, but causing them to give up. A few items you can use to add extra attention to your writing form include colloquialisms, exclamations, hyphens, numerals, parentheses, quotations. It's never a good idea to put a colloquialism or slang word in quotation marks. It draws unnecessary attention to it and makes the reader assume you're being sarcastic or showing you're above the particular thing you've mentioned. Similarly, don't use exclamation points too much as you'll overwhelm the reader and make your writing extremely difficult to read. Hyphens are often used to pull related words together. For instance, once, hyphen, in, hyphen, a, hyphen, lifetime, or around, hyphen, the, hyphen, world. Again, this makes your text easier to read. However, if a word can be written as one, example, water bowl, do so and don't add a hyphen unnecessarily, in this case, water, hyphen, bowl. The use of numbers in text can also be confusing. Do you write a number out in complete form or use the actual number? The general advice is that you should use numerical figures or Roman numerals, except for when the number occurs in the middle of the text and would interrupt the flow of the sentence. In that case, spell the number out as a word. Example, my test is on September 5th, where 5th is spelled out. Parentheses indicate a line of extra information added to a sentence but isn't a complete sentence on its own. I went to the coffee house yesterday, open parentheses, my favorite one in town, closed parentheses, but it was closed. The final element you can use is quotation marks, but remember that a colon should preempt the marks. An excellent example of this could be, I asked her what she wanted for her birthday, and she told me this, colon, open quotation. I would like 3 new dolls and a set of clothes for each one. Full stop, closed quotation. The use of any extra elements makes your writing not only of a higher quality, but also far easier to read. Chapter 5. Always pay attention to your style of writing. Every writer has a particular style that is often difficult to change. For instance, J.K. Rowling, although a wonderful writer, would probably find it difficult or alien to write a nonfiction book compared to the fiction books she's so well known for. You have a natural writing style. try and identify it to help improve your future pieces. Some people write in a factual, serious manner, while others have a conversational style. Perhaps you write humorously. No style is right or wrong, but you need to identify your personal style and be consistent throughout to ensure that the reader believes what you're saying, and you do not lack credibility. Consciously or unconsciously, the reader is dissatisfied with being told only what is not. The reader wishes to be told what is. If your every sentence admits a doubt, your writing will lack authority. E.B. White. Of course, this doesn't mean that you can't change your style occasionally if the need arises. So, how can you find which style is best for you? Write from the character or narrators. You are the writer, but the piece isn't about you. It's about the story or idea you're trying to put forward. Don't force yourself to write unnaturally. If you find it hard to write in a formal style, don't do it. It will appear fake to the reader. Stick to what you're good at. Don't overdo the adjectives. Adjectives are there to add depth to your writing and give the reader a view of what you're saying, helping them create an image in their minds. However, you'll overdo it with too many adjectives, and your writing will be much harder to digest. For the most part, use nouns in your writing and sparingly use high-quality adjectives. Avoid too many words and over-explaining. Your audience isn't stupid. They understand what you're telling them. In your writing, you should aim to make your point clear without the need for too many words or explaining things too much. Often, when you try to explain too vividly, you create more confusion, and the whole piece becomes impossible to understand. Chapter 6. Don't overcomplicate things when you're trying to improve your work. Far too many writers assume they need to go over and above to impress. As we've already explored, that's not the case. If you want to create impressive work, you need to get your message across simply and in a way that fits your writing voice. That's as complicated as it ever needs to be. You don't need to use language that dates back to the Middle Ages to make yourself look like a knowledgeable writer. Simply opt for words that get the point across and help the reader understand and be entertained in the right way. You can easily explain an idea in simple language without offending anyone. You don't need to use the longest word possible to impress. Another mistake many writers make is not editing their work. Always go back over and edit and revise the work you've done. It's a far easier and more effective option than trying to do everything at the initial writing stage. Do a first draft, and then go back over it and correct your mistakes. Once you've done that, do a full read-through and change anything that affects how the piece flows. There is a reason why there are editors out there. No writer is perfect, and no writer can get it 100% correct on the first try. So, while ensuring that you're not overcomplicating your work and adding in unnecessary word count or over-flowery language, make sure you're not too proud to read through and make changes more than once, too. Editing is an opportunity to correct mistakes and change your mind on any of the work you've created before publishing. Conclusion. The Elements of Style is a must-read guide for any budding writer who has long been confused by the many contradictory English language rules. It's true that sometimes the rules just don't work or they don't add up. That's fine, and you'll learn how to tweak the rules and turn them into guidelines while still ensuring your work is high quality and professional. By breaking such confusing terms down into easy-to-understand, bite-sized pieces, the Elements of Style breaks down the barriers between professional writers and amateurs. You can create any piece of writing you want by following the basic rules. You don't have to be J.K. Rowling or Stephen King to create a piece of writing that people appreciate. It doesn't even have to be a novel or a story. It can be a blog, article, or thesis. It can be any solid number of words on a page that gets a message across. By reducing wordiness, cutting back on over-the-top language, and understanding the basic grammar and technical rules that help you create perfect English writing, you'll boost your confidence and start writing more and more than ever before. Perhaps that's the reason why so many people struggle with dissertations or other document types. Maybe it's all down to low confidence. The information contained within the elements of style will help you see that writing is accessible to all, and you simply need to boost your confidence and pay attention to reach the point you're aiming for. Try this. Avoid using foreign language words in your work. It doesn't look particularly impressive and can often confuse the reader. Try to identify your personal writing style. Spend some time reviewing your past pieces and pinpoint it. Be brave enough to pick your work apart at the reviewing stage. It will only help you improve over time.